Alright folks, so today we've got a quick unboxing and review video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Brawler 64 2.5 gig wireless controller for the Nintendo 64 from Retro Fighters. So this is the wireless version of the Brawler 64, and it is also available in wired if you prefer that. But the wireless version just came out, so I definitely wanted to check that out. So starting off on the front of the box, obviously got a picture of the controller itself, and clearly they're taking inspiration from the new modern controllers, moving the analog stick up to the top left of the controller. And then on the back of the box is just a brief description of the controller itself and some of the features, so we'll take a look at those as we go through. So let's pop this open real quick, and we'll see what we've got. Alright, so there's the controller, but there are a couple other things in the box, so let's have a look at those real quick first. So first up, we've got a Retro Fighters keychain, and I believe they're random, so this is the one I got. Kind of a nice little bonus. Then we have a USB-A to USB-C charging cable, so nothing particularly special there. And here's what we're all here for, so this is the controller. So first impressions are really good. The weight is pretty nice, not too heavy, has a rechargeable battery in it. It's got like a matte finish on the plastic, so that's kind of nice. Feels quite tactile. The button layout, as I mentioned a minute ago, is very similar to the Switch Pro controller, or the modern controllers. You'll see there that the analog stick has an octagonal gate, so I like that. Definitely good for accuracy. The D-pad here feels pretty big, but you really can't miss it, so that's a good thing. And the standard face buttons feel pretty good. Though I will say on first impressions, the C buttons actually feel pretty tall. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. You can see there that they stand up a little higher than the A and B buttons. So that's an interesting design choice. On the top of the controller there, you can see the L and R shoulder buttons, along with two Z buttons, which is kind of handy. And while the Z buttons look like they may be analog, they're actually not, since the original N64 Z button was digital also. And you can also see the USB-C charging port there too. Back of the controller is pretty nondescript, just has a sticker with the Retro Fighters logo and the name of the gamepad there. There is a reset hole right next to the bottom screw in the center of the controller, if you do need to reset the controller. But overall, pretty simple and clean. I will say that the fit and finish of the controller is really nice here. If you look at the seams, they're all even. That's really good. And again, just another quick look at the buttons here. Obviously, this is a brand new controller, so the buttons are pretty stiff right now. And I almost feel like you can feel the tension in the membranes, which is good, but we'll see how that wears in. And then also on the front of the controller, which I didn't mention a minute ago, we have a turbo and clear button as well. So overall, I actually quite like the look of this. Feels quite nice. Like I said, the weight's good. So first impressions are good. And then finally in the box here, we have the dongle, which obviously goes into the Nintendo 64. This thing is absolutely massive, but I guess it has to be, because obviously you can't plug a controller pack into the controller itself like you would with a wired controller, so that actually has to go into the dongle. So you can see there the controller pack port, and this will not work with the Rumble Pack. This is only for the controller packs themselves. Alright, so now we've had a quick look at the controller itself. Let's head over to the N64 and see what it can do. So first up, I wanted to take a look at a game that really this controller was designed for. Obviously, the layout of this and the design is primarily focused on fighting games, although the N64 isn't really known for it. But I thought we'd take a look at Mortal Kombat Trilogy and just see how responsive this is. And I will say I'm a little bit rusty at Mortal Kombat Trilogy, so bear with me. So as we're playing through here, the D-pad itself is actually really responsive. I'm very happy with this. It feels nice and tight, obviously, as I would expect with a new controller. There's really no lag in the inputs that I could tell, and it feels really good. As mentioned a minute ago, the C buttons are a little bit taller than the A and B buttons, so that feels a little bit off, but I'm sure it's something I could get used to. And also the distance between the A and B buttons and where the C buttons are is a little bit wider, so you have to move your thumb just a little bit further to get to the buttons. Again, I don't think it's going to be a problem, and it's something I could probably get used to, because the size of the buttons is so big. But overall, for Mortal Kombat, I would say this is good. It's working exactly the way I would hope it would. Now if we could just remember the combos. Alright, so we looked at Mortal Kombat, and obviously put the face buttons through their paces, and they seem pretty good, pretty accurate, so that was okay. And I figured next we'd take a look at a racing game just to see how the analog stick is. So we're going to fire up Ridge Racer 64 and we'll see how we get on. So here we are in Ridge Racer 64, and again, haven't played this one for a while, so I'm a little bit rusty. I'm going to bounce off the walls a few times. But the analog stick feels really responsive, quite nice. Obviously, if you played Ridge Racer before, you know that the controls are a little bit lighter than most other racing games, but the controller is doing exactly what it's supposed to do and following the inputs exactly as I'm putting in. And again, I'm not really experiencing any lag. It's just my terrible driving. So I can definitely say that the analog stick is as responsive as I would expect. Now, other than playing Mortal Kombat and Ridge Racer, I did go through a handful of other games. I tried Castlevania to see how this would work in a 3D platformer. And again, it responded exactly the way I would expect it to. I also played a couple of hours of Mischief Makers to try and get a feel for how this would be in a 2.5D platformer. And again, super responsive. And overall, with the time that I've spent with the controller, I can pretty happily say that it is a fantastic replacement for your standard N64 controller. The only concerns I have, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, are that the face buttons are actually quite stiff, but I think that's going to improve over time, obviously, as the controller breaks in. But as far as the overall experience goes, I really don't have any complaints. Setup was super easy. You just plug the dongle in and hit the start button and it'll automatically connect. The turbo feature works as advertised. And overall, it's just a comfortable and accurate controller. So if you are in the market for a wireless controller for your Nintendo 64, I can definitely recommend this. So that's the Retro Fighters Brawler 64 2.5 gig wireless controller for the Nintendo 64. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please drop us a like and also consider subscribing. It's really helping the channel grow. And also, don't forget to check us out on Twitter. Thanks for watching.